Good morning. It's so wonderful to see you all on this beautiful day. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I want to recognize some special folks in the audience today. We have our Albuquerque City Councilor, Dan Lewis from District 5 on the west side. Thank you for being here. We have Jason Jarvis from Senator Heinrich's office here in the back. Jason, thank you for being here. We have Steve Moore, the owner of these beautiful farms, Virgin Farms. Steve, there you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us today. And of course, my name is Terri Nikole Baca, and I am the Director of External Affairs for AT&T New Mexico. For nearly 100 years, AT&T has been dedicated to supporting military personnel, veterans, and their families. We do that in a number of ways, from providing funding and volunteer support to organizations who serve our veteran community, to having the most robust veteran hiring programs in the country. In April of 2013, we set a goal to hire 5,000 veterans over a 5-year period. In 2016, we anteed up the goal to hire 20,000 veterans by 2020. I'm proud to say that as of today, we've hired more than 14,000 vets toward 2020's goal. Whether they work for Whether they work for us or not, making sure that the men and women who have sacrificed so much for our country have job opportunities when they return home is very important to us. And that is why we were so impressed by the work of Desert Forge Foundation. Desert Forge has made it its mission to provide returning veterans meaningful job training and employment that addresses their emotional, mental, and physical needs. Today, we honor that mission. This Veterans Day, AT&T is teaming up with veterans organizations all across the country. We've pledged a total of $500,000 to organizations that support our veteran communities. I'm pleased to announce that Desert Forge is just one of only 16 organizations in the country that AT&T has chosen for our 2017 Thank Our Heroes campaign. And that's hashtag Thank Our Heroes, and we even have our own Snapchat filter on file if you all have Snapchat. So hashtag Thank Our Heroes. With so many amazing groups dedicated to serving our veterans, I'm very proud that a New Mexico organization was one of the few that were selected for this honor. It's a testament to the great work that Desert Forge is doing here and in our community. I would now like to ask Desert Forge founder and executive director Victor Versace to come up here with me while I present you with the $30,000 award. Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much. Victor, wait, you can't go yet. Victor,
Sorry,
thank you so much for your personal contribution, for serving. I know you did multiple tours and then coming home and serving our veterans in New Mexico. So if you don't mind, I'd love you to talk a little bit more about the Warrior Farm Project and what this $30,000 will be used for.
So here's the deal. It's Veterans Day. Well, it's the day before Veterans Day, and we have a lot of veterans here today. My papa, Dan, back there, served with the Marines in Vietnam. My buddy, JD, is a Civil Affairs Officer, Airborne Ranger. Chief Officer Richard Gwilt, Special Operations Medic Richard Baca. Eric Ortegran, who was with the 173rd Airborne in the Coringal Valley. These guys are veterans. They left their homes to serve our nation abroad or here. We serve veterans who are returning from war or just returning from service. We also serve the community. We have a lot of folks in our program who are just regular folks who are struggling with addiction issues, legal issues, etc. And Desert Forge serves all those folks. We're so thankful to AT&T. I can't even tell you how thankful we are. This changes the model for us. You know, we're able to grow food now and sell it in real time. We don't have to wait for anyone else to purchase from us. We can produce food and sell it in real time. That's a big deal. We have folks from Albuquerque Community Foundation. Kelly was instrumental in inviting us to the a black tie event recently, the Concours du Soleil. So locally, we raised $60,000. Wow. That's a big deal. The Foundation in the past has gotten us money They've helped us over the last 3 years with about $50,000. Dan Lewis and the City Council were instrumental in getting us $25,000 2 years in a row. So what you're seeing is all these different organizations and government entities supporting Desert Forge. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do because we've been there and we understand what it's like to come home and struggle with coming home. I was with the 1st Armored Division in 2003 and 4, and my job was to go out and look for the roadside bombs for 14 months. And when I came home, I was a very different person. I have a background in engineering. I have a career, but I also know what it's like to serve and come home and struggle with the return home. And so, as a combat veteran, I understand what it's like for other veterans coming home. But I also understand what it's like for community members who are struggling with economic issues, with health issues. So, like I said before, we're veteran-centric, but we're all-inclusive. This food truck represents a change for us in that we now are able to generate revenue in-house. Philanthropic model has to be one where the organization can generate some income in-house and not be dependent on grants. And that's what we're part of. We're part of changing Albuquerque, we're part of changing New Mexico. I always say the 4 pillars of our organization are veteran empowerment and healing, local economic development, food localization, and the revitalization of agriculture. We're Desert Forge, and we're going to continue to do what we do. And we're so thankful for all of you being here today, and we're thankful for your support.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. I would now like to welcome Bernalillo County Commissioner Stephen Michael Quezada, who is here with us today. Commissioner Quezada currently serves as Vice Chair of the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners and has a long record of public service for children and families in New Mexico. And you may know him from his free time. He's also an award-winning actor, producer, and comedian. So thank you and welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out this morning. Congratulations to Desert Forge. We've been having a lot of meetings at the county because we've got some bigger plans, right, for Desert Forge, and we got some bigger plans for promoting agriculture in the South Valley. Steve is a great champion for bringing a lot of these farms together in the South Valley, and we're going to move forward in a really positive way. My father served in World War II, Korea, and 2 terms of Vietnam. When he came home, he had 5 children already, and he didn't have many opportunities. You know, I tell people we grew up poor in the barrio. We did. My father dug the ditches and the acequias. That was his job after serving in the military and retiring from the military. But my father dug his way out, and he gave us all an opportunity to choose what we wanted to do with our lives. I'm the youngest, so it was a rough choice to go to my father and tell him, "Dad, I want to be an actor." He looked at me square in the eye and he goes, "Son, you're going to get a job and act like you like it." But because of his struggle, because of his hard work, because of his commitment to community, he taught my brothers and my sister what it meant to be part of the community. I'll be honest with you, I'm learning all this agricultural stuff. I'm an inner city kid. And it's exciting to learn about it, to learn about, you know, the importance of the agriculture in the South Valley and the South Valley floor, and preserving the South Valley floor for what it is and for what its purpose is supposed to be. As county commissioner, I have people come to my office a lot, and it's a lot of developers who are looking at farmland in the South Valley. They're not getting a really nice response from me in my office, because I believe the South Valley floor should be for agriculture and for growing, and not for apartments, and not for trailer parks, and not for 5-house-an-acre developments. We have another place for that. Yes. Right? We have another place for that. Yes. So if we're going to grow, we're not going to grow the South Valley that way. This is what makes the South Valley unique to me. As a comedian, I'm always flying back on the weekends, on Sunday, home. And the most beautiful sight is flying over the South Valley, looking down and saying, Look how unique we are from any other city that I see every weekend. We're so unique because we're an urban and a rural combination of a city that we should always be that, and we should always take pride in being that. That is my commitment as County Commissioner in District 2, that we are going to preserve what the South Valley is, and we're going to support Desert Forge and programs like this because it gives our military an opportunity to not only, have employment, but I don't think people realize the therapeutic benefits from agriculture, that we're going back to the earth, that we're actually touching the earth. I think if you think about your everyday, when was the last time your feet even touched the ground? We're from this planet, and we have somehow lost our way. We know through some of the programs at APS, because I served on the APS school board for 4 years, that using agriculture and using farming is really helping our high school students, our mid-school students, our elementary school students. We implement it in our community centers. We know now that it is a big leap forward, and it's funny because we're not doing something that's new. We've come full circle, and we're doing something that we originally did, and that's work the land. So congratulations, Desert Forge, and AT&T. Thank you so much for, loving our military, because it's a tough days these days. I don't know how much love they're really getting, but to come here and see this check, we know that you haven't been forgotten, because we don't forget the people who are serving, the people who served, and the people who never came home. Tomorrow, let's not forget that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Now I have the honor of welcoming Senator Michael Padilla to join us. Senator is from the South Valley, actually, from here, and his grandparents helped establish what is now known as Los Padillas. He has been a champion for job growth initiatives in the state legislature, including hosting workforce training programs and job fairs in the community. So welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Terri, Nikole. Well, welcome everybody to Senate District 14. You are in one of the most beautiful places in New Mexico right now. And I have to echo the comments of Commissioner Quezada. When I drove up here, as I do many times, I just felt better. It just felt good, and I was walking around and the air felt better and it was calmer and it just felt really, really great. I represent the southwest quadrant of Bernalillo County, and then I'm up in Santa Fe as the Senate Majority Whip. And I will tell you that coming home like this and talking to some of the folks that are helping to organize this program and this effort, it is truly amazing. I can feel the passion and the love that you have for what you're trying to do here. And I'm just going to tell you a brief story. So beyond the trees, right behind me, is a community called Los Padillas. And again, my family did help settle Los Padillas over 150 years ago. And I had my great uncle, Carmel Padilla, the Battle of New Guinea, came home and was able to, with his wonderful, wonderful spouse, my Auntie Lena, who still lives in Los Padillas right now. He'd be about 100 right now. And they raised 6 daughters and 4 sons. That's when you could have families that large. And when he came back from the Battle of New Guinea, he grew apples and chili and alfalfa and winter wheat and anything else he could do on that land. And it did. It forged and raised almost all of his children to go on to higher education, and what a beautiful thing that is. He taught all of us a lot of lessons, life lessons about the water and how the water is just not always going to be there, and we need to protect that water, and we need to take this land and nourish our bodies with it. And he was very, just always talking about how quickly we can take the food from harvesting it and putting it on the tables. And I think that we should help this project. I don't know if you agree. We should help this project take the food from behind me and put it on the school lunch table. Yeah. So all of the secondary and tertiary benefits really will turn into an ecosystem that helps our children to learn how important it is to grow their own food, eat that food, and be healthier for their bodies, but also just to continue that tradition and that beautiful tradition. So I want to thank AT&T. When you think about two things that couldn't almost be more clearly different, AT&T has taken the step of coming to the South Valley in New Mexico and making this huge investment in this program. So I want to let you know, Mr. Executive Director Versace, I love that name, by the way. I could never forget that name. And so when we met a while ago, I said, no, I do know who. He says, do you remember when we met? I said, absolutely, because I can't forget that name. And you have, I want you to know, Mr. Executive Director, I'm going to do everything I can to squeeze a line item in the state budget to help continue this project. I'm guessing that every single dollar that the state of New Mexico puts into this project is going to yield 30 or more dollars. And so I just want to thank you for doing this. I'm a politician. I could talk for hours if you let me. You know, we're here in my district. But I want to thank all of these community leaders who came together this way as well. Congresswoman Lujan Grisham, every time I turn around, she's in my district, and I love it. And so I want to thank you for being here as well. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to sit down right now, but I'm going to take off my shoes, like the commissioner said, in a little while, maybe walk around the patch behind me here.
I have a camera.
Anyway, thank you all very much for being here. Continue to support this project. Continue to welcome our soldiers when they come home, because without them, we would have absolutely nothing. So thank you again, AT&T, and thank you, Desert Forge, for doing this. God bless you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. And finally, we are very honored to be joined by our Congresswoman from Albuquerque, Congresswoman Lujan Grisham, who has dedicated her whole career to fighting for veterans and for seniors. And in fact, today has taken on the VA and is continuing to advocate for increased access to health care for veterans. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to add my voice to recognizing that this really is a special day. In addition to highlighting this incredible project, it is a day where each of us has an opportunity to thank our veterans and their families for their incredible patriotic service and commitment to this country, and something that I get to do often in Congress, which is highlight the fact that New Mexico actually has one of the highest per capita commitments to serving this nation, and one of the highest per capita commitments by minority populations, which means that we really have to think about new strategies like this one, like Desert Forge and the Warriors Farmer Project, to make sure that we're creating these unique opportunities. And it really is about making sure that we have a commitment to our entire family, and we are. This is what the most beautiful thing about this state is: we are one wonderful, tight family. And in fact, my second grade boyfriend was Terri Nikole's father, Matthew Baca, at E.J. Martinez in Santa Fe. And so it is that sort of unique relationship that can highlight productively these kinds of projects. So I want to thank the Virgin Farms and Desert Forge, because the partnership to get the 30,000 is something that congressional offices can do more of, not less, do more of. And we really work for ways to find how we can do the administrative, take that burden away. We want you to grow the food and to recruit and train and to provide the investment to the veterans and the families, and let our office do the administrative work. And just to give you a sense about how hard it is to get this grant, 16 in the country. Right, I think there's some folks that this is a local effort. This is a national effort. And it allows me then, and other members, the entire delegation, because here's a piece of legislation that should be passed this year but won't. It'll get passed in, I hope, please everyone, by September of 2018, but the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill now has unique places to highlight these kinds of investments, right, where we're growing the food, where we're creating entrepreneurial programs. And in fact, the Farm Bill has a title that allows and produces priority projects just like this one, right, where they want to invest in veterans, organic, local farming. And this has great hope for getting, not only if we've got, and Michael and I have got a bunch of stuff that we're doing at the state level and at the federal level. This is a place where the senator and I can have some synergy. And there's no reason, Commissioner, now, while the county can't add a nickel or two, and there's no reason, where's the city councilor? I know he's here somewhere. There's no reason that the city. So when you get everybody investing, we can grow these projects exponentially. And I also want to highlight something else they're doing. And you heard about the healing and the incredible fabric about training folks to have job opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities. The organic farming, and just if you look at this farm, and my family were ranchers in northern New Mexico. It's sometimes, I think, too easy to not understand the scientific value about what's really going on. And the work that they're doing for this soil, one of the harshest lessons I learned in the Ag Committee during my first term is that we have lost all the nutrient value out of most of the earth. And so where we get our huge, right, produce and economic agricultural investments out of California, kids today have 40% less of the nutrients than I had as a kid for the very same, right, fruits and vegetables that are grown. Well, that's not true here. And we have a bill, a bipartisan bill, Vic, that says, look, we're going to protect your work and the integrity of the organic efforts here. Highlight that in a way so that these projects then are the priority projects in terms of purchasing food and protecting that food. And that's a huge step forward for a Congress who is particularly interested in quantity over quality, and those are not mutually exclusive. And you are showing and demonstrating today that in fact it isn't, and that we can give back to a community of individuals who can get this right and use 21st and coming 22nd century investments to really make a difference for the quality of food. And New Mexico can be the #1 place in the nation for these sort of quality efforts that also protect and reinvest in our veterans and their entire families. And so I really want to congratulate you for that part of this effort, because there is no doubt in my mind that we're going to create incredible new health opportunities for all of our youngsters. And I want to end with this. I was talking to Vic. This is hard work. And so while we are incredibly proud of you, we also need to recognize this is tough. I spent a day on a farm in northern New Mexico to highlight a couple of things. The kind of unique quality farming that's going on in New Mexico, that we're getting into people's homes and into farmers markets and into the schools and now into grocery stores in a whole unique way, so that we're competitive and we can actually get a return on these investments that are meaningful. But also to look at some of the problems that local farmers have in dealing with the farm bill and having the same sort of protected access to those investments that the big corporations do in growing food. And so I weeded, and we did some watering, and we did lots of harvesting. And I'll tell you what I learned, more than just sort of the obvious about the hard work and the labor intensive, the onions. All right, as we were picking the onions, they got to get to market in short order, right? They've got an afternoon farmer's market that's 30, 40 miles away. We got to get them cleaned and prepared. That never occurred to me. So I'm in the kitchen and I'm outside, right? And we're peeling those onions and getting them cleaned. And if you don't have the right spaces to do that, and you can't do it in real time, and you can't be moving so that you can get that food on the table or into, right, those farmers market, you miss that opportunity. And if they don't do that, do you know what the grocery store is going to pay for an entire basket of onions that took me more than an hour, because I'm slow, to pick them? Any guesses? $1.50. $1.50 for an organic onion that not just, and this is a family where 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds are out after school participating in that family farming, which I also wanted to highlight, that this is work we need to think about how we do it differently. You're doing that today. You're thinking about how you do it differently. You're making sure that there's going to be a fair return on these investments. You're going to treat veterans and their families with incredible respect and dignity. And we're going to return the kind of value-added products that will get their place in policy at the local, state, and federal level. I am so proud of you and AT&T. This is the kind of public-private partnership that will make a difference for generations to come. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. That concludes our speaking part of the program. I would love for our guests to take a photo opportunity with us in the check. And then everyone is certainly free to explore the farm. I think that, Victor, you are offering tours if anyone's interested. So, and yes, absolutely.
You can eat everything you find.
Great. Thank you all so much again. And how about a big hand for all of our veterans here today? Thank you.
You guys ready?
We're rolling.
Are you rolling?
All right.
Sir, thank you for coming out.
Sure.
County Commissioner Michael J. Quezada, famous actor, right? Breaking Bad, comedian, makes people laugh. I remember watching you as a comedian when you first started.
Yeah.
What I really want to do is just have a sit-down conversation with you and just kind of find out how you can help us in our venture forward to make this go from being kind of just a farm where some people come out every once in a while to something that's cultivated in the future for schools, for foods, for hospitals, all these places that we can reach that we can do really good things.
All of that is viable. You know, there's a lot of charter schools in my district now. I mean, I sat on the school board for 4 years before moving to county commissioner.
Yes, sir.
And some, you know, a lot of these charter schools have, you know, they're getting organic food. They've teamed up with local growers, and we're seeing, you know, a big impact on not only their studies, you know, their performance, their attendance, their health.
Right.
I mean, all that, you know, that all comes together with, you know, how we're looking at education.
Right.
I mean, if we're looking at how do we improve, just a simple, how do we improve education in the state of New Mexico, especially in Albuquerque Public School District, you know, if we're feeding our children healthier, if they're getting what they deserve to work with, right? We've been misspending money in this state when we're looking at education in so many different ways. You know, with standardized testing, with teacher evaluation. I don't know if you're aware, but the PARC test costs $25 million to administer.
That test is ridiculous.
Right? The PARC test,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you get the results of that test the next year.
Right.
The kid's already
They're
gone
moving
to
on.
the next year of
Right.
school.
They need something right now.
So, do we want to assess kids? Of course we do. But I'd rather take that $25 million and figure out how do we feed our kids?
Right.
And how do we bring healthy food? So then we have less to deal with when we're looking at some of the big initiatives that I've been pushing and that I've done, which is the school-based health centers.
Yes.
Right? So, because we have a lot of, you know, we're from this area.
Right.
We know what drugs and the behavioral health issue and what kind of issue we have that in New Mexico.
Right.
But we also know, thanks to my wife, who's very brilliant and does a lot of research, that, you know, our nutrition and how we eat determines also
body.
our mental health too.
So let me tie into that, since you bring
Okay.
that up, how we work on the farm. You know, one of the things that's been watered down through a giant federal entity, and I won't use their names, but you probably know who they are, is the word organic.
Yeah.
All right. And it's been watered down so much that people will buy a label that says organic, but won't know that the food they're getting is crap.
I know.
Plain and simple.
And
right?
I'm one of those kids who never knew that.
Right? So
Yeah.
here on this farm, we don't use the word organic, we use natural.
Yeah.
And the food that we serve has a certain energetic level.
Yeah.
Right? And some people don't understand this, and it took a while for most of us to,
Yeah.
until we started to see it and feel it when we ate the food,
Yeah.
was that everybody has a signature frequency of what they operate on.
Well,
basically,
everything
right?
vibrates. Right?
Vibrates,
Everybody
right?
has a
And
vibration.
that's our energetic
all the way
level.
down to the
Absolutely.
the molecular
The
level.
food that we supply off of our farm has a very high energetic
Yeah.
level, which means that the food that you're getting is actually working inside your body to make you the best person that you are,
Yeah.
physically and mentally, right? And that's what we want to get out. And the
Exactly.
biggest part for us is that veterans can eat normal, healthy food and get off drugs, get off all these medicines when they go to the
Medications,
VA.
yeah.
They can heal their backs, they can do better work, they can
Yeah.
think better clearly. You know,
Yeah.
we have a lot of veterans coming back, myself included, who
Yeah.
have a TBI.
Yeah.
Nobody knows any research based on it. They give you the answer of like, oh, it's a concussion. But
you
later
know,
on down the line,
that
you're
is
gonna
something
feel
that's
that.
so needed. But you know, it would have been great if we would have known what we could do for our veterans and what we
Absolutely.
could do for the people who've experienced stuff that none of us will ever experience. Thanks to them,
Right.
we don't. Because we could if it wasn't for them, right? I mean, it would be easy to come over here,
Right.
and then that
Absolutely.
changes everything,
It changes
right?
everything.
Then everybody's a soldier,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So you know, we need to make sure that we make sure that they're healthy, that they're happy, and they've got opportunity.
Absolutely. It's
And,
it.
and
that's
that,
all they want.
And that all happens
here.
right here,
There's a
on
very
the same property.
There's a very therapeutic transformation that happens on the farm that people don't realize until they come out here.
Yeah.
Veterans come out here and they're like, oh, what's the farm going to do for me, or whatever.
Yeah.
A veteran or somebody in the military is so mindset on taking a life. They prepare everything
Yeah.
that they do. All their training, everything that they do is in preparation for having to take somebody's life at some point in time. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
that's the black and white of it,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
So when they come back home, turning off that switch is very difficult for them. But when they come to the farm, there's a transformation that happens when they plant the seed, when they cultivate the land, when they nourish it, when they grow it, and
Yeah.
they put their love and heart and soul into it. And then 6 months later, they have a plant that's producing a vegetable or a fruit. and they take that fruit and they put it in their family's plate and they see the joy that their family gets from eating that food, there's a transformation of wanting to take a life to now wanting to give a life.
Yeah.
Right? And it's huge. And
or
it's
sustain life even.
Yeah, and it's huge. And it's something that we need to do more of. So bottom line, my question is, how can we get the county commission in our district to supply us with funds to make this happen?
Well, one of the big initiatives that we're doing right now is with the South Valley Economic Development Center. So that is something that comes through my office. I've met with Steve and with all the leadership, and you know, we're going to look at how do we make that more advantageous so we can get this food out at because it's okay that you take it to your family and everything else. But we want everybody to. Hey, I'm getting greedy now. So now here comes the greedy commissioner, man. I want everybody to have this, right? I think that. So how do we? So if we can prove through the South Valley Economic Development Center that this model is going to work and that we can get it out so then it's easier for me to get more funds, not only to support what farms are needing, but how do we grow that whole, so we have bigger kitchens, so we have, so we have more trucks, so we can do it on a bigger scale, right? And then so guess what? We didn't invent an industry, but
just made it better.
But we got into an industry and did it right and did it at a level that only big farmers out of California are doing. But we want to feed our people.
So the difference.
Not that I don't want to ship it out somewhere else. If we could get to that point, I would love it. But I think our the step for me and what would make me happy is if I could support you in that sense. And how do we grow that development center? We just need to at this point show I think the rest of the commissioners. Right, because I'm one commissioner, and I'm doing something in my district, and they're like, oh, okay, all he cares about is his district. How it works. But this isn't just for my district. I mean, you know that, right? Absolutely. So we got to show them how it works. We can show them that we're successful in it, and then it makes it easier for not only do I get money from the county, but then we have a strong case to go to the state and then go to the federal, the federal level. So those are my initial first plans here. But as we continue to start looking at needs and shortfalls in funding, I'll go out and see what I could do, or I'll do fundraisers if I have to.
Mr. Quezada,
you know how I
do
it.
Brother. I appreciate
I'll go tell jokes to raise money,
there you go, man.
I always have, right? I've always raised money for kids.
Thank you for doing this, sit down, talk, and
my
I appreciate
pleasure.
you coming out, and supporting the foundation.
No, thank you, man. The thanks goes to you. No, it does.
We just happen to do a job just like you're doing a job. That's all.
No, but you still need to be thanked.
Thank you, sir. All right. Senator Padilla, thank you so much for joining us here at the Desert Forge Virgin Farms Foundation for today's event. I just want to sit down informally and talk to you and just basically tell you about what we're doing, and we want to see how we can work collectively to empower more veterans. It doesn't come down to is this a concept anymore? This is in full fruition and we're making things happen, but we need to reach more veterans. And unfortunately, the way the world works today, we need money to do that. And we want to see what you would be able to do for us as far as helping us get money to run the foundation. It's a 365-day-a-year operation, 7 days a week, and the more veterans that we can save, get them jobs, empower them, work on their emotional healing. That stuff is something that we really need help with, and unfortunately, we need to do it at a higher level to reach more people.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this in my district. This is Senate District 14. It is really a microcosm of farming and ranching and a number of other things here in New Mexico, so it's a great place for you to be doing this. When I think about my uncle Carmel Padilla, he came back from New Guinea, the Battle of New Guinea.
Oh, wow.
And this was a long time ago. And he grew up, just beyond the trees over there in a community where I'm from called Los Padillas.
Oh, yeah.
And when he came back, his business was apples and chili and growing sheep and winter wheat and all the things that, that I think you guys are going to be doing here with this project. And, and that's how he sustained his family. I mean, he had, 6 daughters and 5 sons, if you can believe that's exactly how big these families were back then.
Right.
And every time I interacted with him, he talked to me about things like, appreciating the water and that the water's not always going to be there.
Right.
And that we need to protect it and that we need to use this land for what it was meant for, which was to nourish our bodies,
Right.
So from that standpoint, I get it. I really believe this is very, very important. He was very proud of that. And, the community needs to carry on those traditions.
Absolutely.
And so I think that what you're doing here is very special, for New Mexico. And there is not an organization that we should be doing more for than the Desert Forge Foundation here in the South Valley, because of the work that you guys do, because you help us to carry on those traditions. So how can I help? I mean, I think that, you know, if you have a fiscal agent for your project, which I believe you do,
We do, yes, sir.
you know, we can work very hard to appropriate capital dollars, which will help you with things like watering systems, any buildings that you need to put on the property,
Absolutely.
storage facilities, things of that nature. And those are sort of capital items.
Correct.
And then from an appropriation standpoint, you know, I don't know why we couldn't, you know, develop some sort of an appropriation for this project to keep it alive.
Right now, our foundation is run on specifically grants,
Mm-hmm.
right, and the generosity of community. AT&T, as we're here today,
Mm-hmm.
you know, donates dollars to us, but that grant money only goes so far.
Sure.
And in order for us to reach more veterans, in order for us to provide jobs and training and labor for what we want to do for the future of our foundation, which has become a national training center for veterans throughout the whole country, to
Wow,
come here
nice.
and live on a working farm, to
Mm-hmm.
have a building where they can sleep, wake up in the morning and go out and with our master farmer and learn how to farm, learn how to butcher cows and chickens and pigs and everything that we have on the farm. We need money to pay them. They have to be able to be paid. So when you mentioned possibly sitting down and having a line item so that every year we know that we can count on a certain dollar amount of money to come from our state and our representatives such as yourself, whether it be at the federal or the state level, those are the things that we need to move toward for the next level in order for this farm to reach more people. And I just, we're blessed to have you out here. We're blessed to have the things that we have. God is good in that sense, and bringing the communities together, especially with the farming tradition down here, is something that we want to keep alive, because at the end of the day, without food, there's no life.
Sure.
Right.
Well, and you have representation today from the city, the county, the state, and the federal government. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine a project that would have more people coming together
Right.
to help you with this. And I'm going to do everything I can.
Absolutely.
Because I come from this area, and I can really appreciate the mission of what you're trying to do. But also, I mean, we would have nothing if you guys had not gone and done what you did. So I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
I want to
Appreciate
thank anybody that is a part of this project, whether it's from here in New Mexico or from anywhere, around the country or whatever. So I really appreciate that, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, sir. For us, it's just a chance to, it's a chance for us to continue to serve. You never really find out what your life is about until you're in service of others with nothing in return.
That's right.
And we just want to put that out, and we want more people to be involved in this. And I just want to thank you for coming out today, sir.
Thank you
Sitting
very
down
much.
and talking with
Absolutely,
me a little bit.
yeah.
And
I don't live too far from here, so I will
Good.
stop in
Anytime
quite
you
a bit.
come in, we got some red chili, we
There
got
we
some
go.
cherry tomatoes
All right.
and heirloom tomatoes down here.
That's
so
great.
feel free to come down and pick
And you will be bringing students onto this property as well, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Actually, we are hoping, we're in the process of working on a couple of bigger campaigns where we like to get in the schools. We'd like to set up a farming initiative with APS. The problem is that most of the time when all the farming is done, it's after the school year has ended.
Okay.
But we want to see about maybe appropriating some funds either through the school or through APS or however we can do it, so that we can build greenhouses on site at campuses where it's a year-long thing and students can grow food. So what it would do is it allow that student who struggles at home because they don't have enough food to feed their family, and their moms are
and
struggling,
healthy
right?
food.
And
I
healthy
mean,
food, exactly.
If we can take food from this farm and put it on a school lunch table,
Absolutely.
Within 36 hours, as an example, I mean, what a better combination all around.
Absolutely.
Helps the folks, coming home through the Desert Forge Foundation. It helps the students that come and help you grow it, harvest it, what have you. And then, the health aspect of it is just as critical and important.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, it's very therapeutic. There's something about planting something, watching it grow.
That's right.
Nurturing it, and then feeding yourself and your family and watching the pleasure that they get from
Well,
that.
and then that just sort of will perpetuate itself with these young
Exactly.
people as they go through their lives.
Absolutely,
So,
that's exactly what we want to do.
well,
Again, thank you, Senator,
Thank you very much.
And it was a
Thanks for
pleasure
having me
you
today.
out here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Michelle Lujan Grisham, thank you for meeting with me. This is just real informal. It's just a chit chat about what we do, and in the cut and dry sense, aside from the political stances and everything, what can we do together to fund the Desert Forge Foundation so that we have a bigger impact on people? We have a very we're tip of the spear kind of people, and we don't want this just to be in New Mexico. We want to be a nationwide training center for veterans to come to us to work on a working farm, work tractors, learn how tractors work, how to set up water lines, how to feed your chickens and your hogs and butcher them, and marketing and everything that goes along with farming for that veteran, whether they want to do it on a business level or whether they want to do it just to sustain their family at home so they don't have
whatever
to spend.
it is, whatever their mark on.
Right.
Well, we're doing it. I mean, providing awareness about the existence and then the success of these projects there's one third point. And that's how you begin the environment to get funding and recognition and awareness, so that you have private sector investments. And we need policymakers, we need federal, state, we need local government investments, because those are sustainable and they're the kind of investments that give us huge economic returns, right?
Absolutely.
And that's before we get to the wellness aspects, right? If I have folks who aren't in the hospital and aren't homeless and aren't, as you know, it's a really tough topic. So the suicide rates for veterans continue to go up, and all the research indicates that you got to give something meaningful for people to do, and you got to provide respect, and you have to acknowledge that the emotional and invisible wounds are real.
Absolutely.
Right? So that happens in this project.
Absolutely.
All right? So that's the secret component. And I talked today, you gave me an opportunity to highlight that the federal government, the one big bipartisan piece of legislation, it's the one thing that all members of Congress are really proud of, because we feed the world. Americans feed the world.
We do. Absolutely.
Right? So, and yet most kids don't know where their food comes from. You know, we get it at the grocery store or the drive-through. It comes from the drive-through, or you just can go to the big grocery store. They don't really understand it.
Or mom makes it.
Well, yeah, so they don't understand it. So the Farm Bill is a 5-year authorized environment. Now, I'll give you some bad news. The bad news is that Congress, given that we've got deficits, isn't adding money. They just sort of replace priorities. I disagree with that, because remember, when you invest in something, there's a return, an economic, clear return.
There has to be.
There always is. I mean, if you do it right, and you're doing it right. So we're going to get a return on that investment. But I do think there's real opportunity to get what I call seed or foundation money for projects. Now, we're not allowed to earmark, which is the easy way.
Right.
Desert Forge, here you are, this is what you
Absolutely.
do. The Warriors Farmer Project, whatever we want to talk about it. But we can describe this. And I have one for you that there's a guy, his name is Rick, I don't say his last name right, I think it's Hennessy, and he's homeless.
Okay.
And he's outside of the East Steps, the Capitol, every day. And while I'm proud to tell you that I see many members of Congress, be respectful and say hello to Rick and talk to him, and he lobbies us and he wants to be the speaker, and he gets very angry and upset about the things that we do or don't do. But I wanted to get to know Rick. So now he's in my office. I drive him home when the weather's bad, because he lives on a street corner that's really far away from the East Steps. And I don't know how he's dealing. He's an older guy in poor weather, which on the East Coast happens all the time. And he's really interested in this thing he's calling them farmettes. And he wrote a little book about that, because he sees that homeless folks and homeless veterans, if they had a place to live and had this sort of training, so you could create temporary sort of housing, cabanas, whatever they are. And to your point, to think about ways where people could come from anywhere in the country, be here, live here, get that kind of housing, have the direct experience at all facets.
Correct.
Just to heal, just for your family. You're going to have a big business. You're going to think of the next new thing. You solved one of our biologic questions because you have a science background. Whatever it is. You created a new watering system. I mean, the opportunities are vast.
Absolutely.
Right?
So that's one of the things that the military drives, is that we're so diverse, not just in an ethnicity, but we're so diverse in the way we think, in our backgrounds.
Your education.
And that's why military small units work so well, is because they have those people that always add something to that mission.
And you're mission focused.
Right.
Right? So your mission is to succeed for this project.
Absolutely.
Failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option.
That's what it is. That training is hugely valuable. And actually, until this interview with you, I didn't really think about, we could, because I think that actually New Mexico could export entrepreneurs.
So,
and you know, the oldest wineries in the United States are in New Mexico.
Absolutely. And the best one. St. Clair's down in Demi. That's such a cool place down there.
Oh,
so we have the opportunity to do that.
You do.
You know, we have the opportunity to go out into the market, and we tell everybody that we speak to, unfortunately, the mind frame of most people is when a nonprofit goes to them and they talk to them, the first thing they think about, oh, this nonprofit wants money from me, right? Yes, we do want money from you because we need your money in order for us to function. But what they don't see is the passion behind it of what we're trying to do.
Right. And the commitment to take it beyond.
It's not like I want your money to go to the store and sell it to Albertsons and say, okay, Albertsons is going to pay me $5 million every year because they love my tomatoes. That's not what we're doing here. What
and they won't pay you $5 million.
Right, exactly. What I'm doing is, what we're doing is taking the food and making somebody healthier and happier. We live in a impoverished community. It's just how it is. State of New Mexico is, poverty runs rampant in our state, unfortunately, right? And it's always been that way, especially in the South Valley. I grew up just right down the road from here. But what we would be able to do is those impoverished families, if we could set up plots of land, places where they could go, where it's a family market. So when they don't have the money to purchase the vegetables that they need to feed their family with,
have it right there.
They have it right down the road, and they can walk to it, and they can pick it, and they go home and they cook their food.
So this family,
and that's why we want to get in schools.
And this family that I talked to, that I did some farming with in northern New Mexico. So immigrant families really trying to make a difference in a living, and everybody works. And sometimes when they need the vehicle, the truck, to get to a farmer's market, then the spouse has to walk 5 miles to work. I mean, it's tricky. Yeah. That's why there are kids who, they're not making them work, but they're helping, right? They're doing everything they can. Well, we had lunch together. It was one of the most, just in terms of rich, to use that specific term, I've never, and I've eaten at 5-star restaurants all over the world. I'm very lucky, right? I've had incredible opportunities in my life. The richest lunch I've ever had in my entire life was at this family farm, where everything that we ate, they grew and cooked in your language, at real time, right there in front of me. And everybody was involved. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
Probably, I'm sure.
It was the best. Actually, they actually made kind of this, calling it a tortilla is wrong, but it was like a blue corn tortilla pie. I don't know what it was. It was kind of like it was a local farm, blue corn, Hispanic corn bread thing that in my family I'd never seen before.
Amazing.
It was amazing because it's more like a pancake, but then it's got that kind of cornbread. Unbelievable. And we have the opportunity to have every child and every family grow up in an environment where that's what they have access to.
Absolutely.
It will enrich their lives. It will solve their health problems. It will give them dignity and respect. And we're in a state where we have the hungriest families in the country.
And so that's one of the reasons that we want to get into public schools, is because, those students that are struggling, that don't eat, that don't have the food. If we could set up greenhouses where they could grow food continuously throughout the year.
That's right.
And they could go home and say, Mom, don't worry about chicken, or don't worry about corn or anything like that.
We're going to get our protein.
I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get it for school.
That's
don't worry about it.
No, I love it.
Again, tip of the spear stuff that we want to do is we want to reach lives. We want to change lives. So
well, I'm going to
to
challenge you. You have reached lives. You are changing lives.
Good.
And the reason that you have such an eclectic, productive group and private investments is because you've already demonstrated that you can succeed, frankly, without us. But this is a selfless investment in making sure that we grow it. Because if we don't grow it, we're limiting your success. And nobody here wants to do that. So I'm committed to the Farm Bill. We're committed to continue to look for grants. We're committed to highlight your successes. I can tell you right now, my team's getting it all over social media.
Good.
Because that's how you grow the foundation for a international or multinational or national effort. Make it statewide, make it regional, whatever steps are. I got no doubt that if we want it to succeed, having you involved, I couldn't stop you if I tried.
No, absolutely.
And how lucky am I that that's not my purpose. I want to be your partner.
Ma'am, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Happy Veterans Day. And
thank
you know
very much.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you very much, Congresswoman.
No, I mean that.
I appreciate it.
My job is meaningless without your family's dedication and selfless acts.
Even though you're no longer over there, doesn't mean you're alone. Farming the land, healing the spirit, and healing the heart. Desert Forge.